wish we could go back to the simpler times. Times where I never had to think of what I looked like before filming every single weekly episode. Today, I'm going to talk about the evolution of the podcast and from last week's episode, speak about this week's episode, obviously, but in it, speak about the evolution of the podcast. This episode is going to be longer than every episode I've done so far, I think, because I forgot the mission of the podcast. Truly, I forgot that I was trying to document my thoughts on my weekly, my weekly thoughts, and in the podcast for the Where's My Main podcast, I tried to play it safe because there were a lot of things I chose to not speak on, from what was happening, what is still happening in Gaza, to what is uncovering in the UK, in America, in Australia, in Congo, in Sudan. And the reason why I never spoke about it was because I did not think anybody wanted to hear my thoughts on it. And then I remember, I did not even remember until like this past week. And I thought to myself, I was like, this podcast truly, in the core, in its essence, is a documentation of my thoughts for me when I'm 80 and I'm like replaying back my life and like what I thought of in various aspects. And I listened to a podcast yesterday that like streamlines my thoughts, and the person was not even speaking about what I'm going to be talking about today, but the person was saying how they policed their thoughts for their podcast. And I was like, okay, I've been doing that for way too much, for way too long, and I've had problems with video podcasts since the introduction, which was last year, like showing up on camera every single day, every single week, um, because I truly like looking a certain way when I'm on camera, and when I can't look that way, it makes me really uncomfortable to be like face the camera. Um, yeah. Political news. I'll start from there, and then I'll talk about this week's episode. And this episode is titled I can't remember the title of the episode. I don't have notes for this episode, obviously, because I it's Wednesday, like last week, the day before this podcast comes out, because and this episode is not going to be edited because I want to leave in my thinking time period. This is going to be one of many capsule episodes where I just pour out my thoughts on various topics. And the podcast is going to switch in a very odd way in the next couple of weeks. And I really want to, like, in a way, this is like a brainstorming episode where I test how the podcast might be for the coming next couple of months, even maybe years. It's not that I've not had a lot on my mind. It's that I've had way too much on my mind and I've not focused on one thing for a set amount of time. And each week I don't have like a topic to like talk about. And that's why the structure of the podcast is like changing in a very different direction that I don't even know how it's going to look in the next few months. Back to politics. I want to tell you my political history. Growing up, I was not in a very political family. nobody cared about politics in my family. Everybody was like, I think people voted when they had to vote. I have not voted still in my on all my lives I've lived here. Even when I had the ability to vote everywhere, I did not. I still won't. I still haven't voted. Um, I knew my aunties, one of my auntie never voted because she was like, it's way too much. And as a kid, when adults spoke about voting, there were things that adults spoke about when I was younger that I was excited to do. For example, when I was a kid, I was excited to make money. I was excited to start making money for myself because I thought, oh, when I make when I make money, I can buy whatever I wanted. There were like set things I was excited for. I was excited for making money. I was excited for finally owning a house. I don't own a house yet, but I was excited for or finally living in my own space or in an apartment. I'm still hoping for that. Um, I was excited for getting myself ready in the mornings, like dressing up. I was excited for keeping my space clean, even if it's wholly unclean right now. I was excited for a lot of those things there, and there were things I was never going to. I knew as a kid I was never gonna do as an adult. Voting, getting into a relationship with people. I wanted to have friends. I was excited to have a friend group when I was younger. I'm still excited for that. Um, yeah, I think there were a lot like drinking alcohol. I was never excited for that. Doing drugs. I was never excited for that. And I'm not saying that as a kid, I knew I would never do this as an adult because I did not think it was cool. Like observing adults do it. Um, Other things I observed adults, I was excited to go to work as a kid. I'm not joking because my auntie worked in a hospital. I never wanted to become a doctor or work in a hospital, but I liked the fact that she left the house and then she came, and I was excited for that scene every like as a kid, like her leaving to go to work and her coming back. And I was also excited for shopping, and I was excited whenever I had to cook. And when I learned to cook, I'll tell you my first cooking story. I don't know if you know what sweet potatoes are, but imagine a bigger sweet potato. It's These are yams. And the first meal I made myself, I made yams and I boiled the yams. And I added so much salt that nobody could eat it. But that was the first meal I made and I was so excited and I made it and I, I gave it to my cousins and they could not eat it. And then I saved it for my auntie so when she comes home she could have it. And she could not eat it as well because there was so much salt. And then I made rice and I made so many things. Like when I was growing up, learning these stuff was so exciting to me. Like whenever I saw people cooking, it was so exciting to me. I did not like going to parties as a kid, and as an adult now, I would not go to like parties. I don't think it's something I'm excited about. If I was going to celebrate anything of my own volition, I would not do it in a party format. I'll do it in a very casual format, and I would not invite more than four people. Oh no, I threw a party for somebody in my old church. So what am I saying? Okay, quick story. This episode is gonna be really long. In my old church, there was this guy. He's a leader, and I threw a party for the leader at the leader's house. Um, I think 25 people came to the party, but it was like I don't know how to explain it. I the party got out of control because because I wanted the party to be exactly what I wanted. I wanted everybody to listen to classical music, play board games, and play and have a debate. That's that's sorry. That's what I wanted the party to be. But the party went out of my control. Somebody else took over the um the sound desk. They were playing music I don't listen to. I would never listen to those music. And everybody in that party was Christian. They were playing games I did not even introduce when I paid for the party. But yeah, um, it was a fun. It was fun in some aspects, but it's so strange because every single person I knew then, I don't speak to any of them now. Okay, that's my that's my relationship with politics. And on the podcast, I said I wanted the podcast to be politically neutral. I wanted every single person to be able to like listen to us and say, "Oh, I like that take. I like that take." But I was thinking this week, and I was like, "Oh, like in this like climate, in this political climate." I'm not saying, oh, my thoughts are like are the best, and you should agree with what I'm saying. I'm just telling you, oh, this is where I stand, and you could stand in an opposite, like you could be an oppos you could oppose what I stand for, but we could still enjoy this time as people on the internet. I see people, and we see people who say if you're in an opposition to what I stand for, we can't interact or we can't be civil. But I believe we can be civil, and I believe we can interact, and I believe you can listen to the podcast if you don't stand with everything I stand for. Then, when I turned to an adult and politics was like becoming this unescapable bubble, I was staunchly unaware about a lot of things. I did not care to know about what was going on. And then 2020 happened. And then, if you had the internet in 2020, or if you're old enough to like be on that side of the internet, you would have seen like the Black Lives Matter movement. And I did not understand it because I grew up in a black country. Like, nobody really said Black Lives Matter, or like Black Lives did not matter. So I did not really understand it. And like I saw people talking about, oh, you have to like say Black Lives Matter. And I was like, okay. Not to me, like people on the internet saying it to like celebrities. And I was like, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't even know what it means. And then the same year, I think, or the year after, the Asian Life Matters one happened. And I was like, oh, I can stand for this because Stephanie Sue explained what was happening to Asian people. And I was like, oh, I stand with Asian Lives Matter. But like, then a law happened, blah, blah, blah. Then the whole thing happened. In 2024, the American election, so this was last year, was it 2024? I don't know if I ever said this, but 2024 was the American election. And I had been, in a way, trolling people. The truth is, I did not hate Trump. Or, like, a lot of people were like, I dislike Trump. And, like, they had such strong emotions for Donald Trump. And I never had that for somebody I've never had the privilege to interact with, or I've never spoken to this person. So why would I dislike someone so much? And because I have like seen the way the internet spins things, I I'm not saying this in a way that they spin things for me. Like, I'm talking about when I watch shows, or like when I watch like clips on the internet and then I go watch the whole thing and it's like taken out of context. And I was listening to Candace Owens then, and Candace Owens was like a Trump lover, and I still listen to Candace Owens. What did I say then? I still listen to Candace Owens, and she likes Trump, and I don't hate or like Trump. I just like the guy doesn't do anything for me. Like, he's Trump. And for the 2024 election, I picked Trump to win because I knew. No, I thought he was gonna win, and if he did not win, something big was gonna happen. Like something really terrible was gonna happen in the United States. So I was like, I know Trump is gonna win, and I was like saying it. I said it in a way to irritate people because I like attention. So I was like saying it to every single person I know because everyone wanted Kamala to win, and at the back of my mind, I knew I wanted Kamala to win, but outwardly, I said I wanted Trump to win, and then Trump won, and then things started shifting. After Trump won, like before Trump won, things were shifting, but in the dark. But when Trump won, like it's like a light switch turned on, and like the things that were shifting, like had the fuel to show themselves outwardly. And then I did an episode early this year called "Is White Right?" and I I think that question in itself is very thought provoking because why did I choose to like talk about only white being right? And for context, there was a video if you go to on the West Main podcast TikTok because that's going to be at the end of the episode, but like a lot has happened. But if you go on the West Main podcast TikTok, there is a TikTok post, and it tells like it shows like the context of why that episode is that episode, and you have to scroll a lot to get there. I think I'll pin it on the Where's My Mind TikTok so whoever's listening to this episode can see what I'm talking about. And then I had a very neutral take in that episode because I wanted to truly understand why white is right. And with the Where's My Mind podcast, I will still give my take, but I'm still going to speak in a very neutral base. I'm never going to rage bait or like say things that I think will give me clicks. So like come after people, a group of people. And this episode is just like the best way I can describe this episode is like a testing episode of the new format. And it's going to be video still. Hi. Video episodes. You're so scary. Um, it's gonna be video still, but I think it's gonna be 30 minutes still. The length of the podcast episodes, but yeah, and I did that, and recently I don't know if I said this out loud. I think I said this I was talking to myself, and I said I don't support Israel or Palestine. I used to support Palestine, but I don't support Palestine anymore because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really affect me. Like whatever is happening there, like I don't live there. It's not affecting me, and I thought that was the right way to like respond to everything that was going on because I was like, it's scary what's going on in the world, but I don't want to like. And I was gonna do an episode called "Political Apathy," which is me not caring at all about what's happening in the political landscape. I chose not to release that episode or even film that episode because I was thinking about it and I thought that's very tone deaf. And I'm not saying it's tone deaf in a way that what was that? I'm saying it's very privileged to say, oh, I'm not gonna speak about this because it's not affecting me or because I can. It's not something that I am going through. It's going on in like a very different part of the world. And like am I saying if something was happening in another part of the world, people of Palestine would speak out? No, and I'm not like you should not. I'm talking to myself right now. I did not want to react in the same way I think people who are going through said conditions would react. And I was thinking of the podcast as the origin of the idea, which is 80-year-old me listening to this. And I said, what if I forget what my stance were on different issues? And for the next forever, for the foreseeable future, I will be talking about what I think, where I stand in various topics. And I may stand in opposition to you, and I may stand in your side. I think we're all human, and yeah. I'm going to talk about one that I have been struggling with for the last, I think, 2 years. And then I will talk about the topic for today briefly for like 10 minutes. Um, the one I have struggled with for the last 2 years is race. I think with race, I've never been somebody who was aware of my race. Because I grew up in a mostly black country. I was never aware of my race because everybody looked like me. Um, I became aware of race when I moved algorithms on TikTok, because before I never really thought of race as something to be like, I only thought of it as something you take on, like a form. That's how I thought of race for like the longest time. And when I moved to the UK for the first time, I had never heard the N word. I swear to you, I'm pretty sure if I had heard the N word growing up, I would have said I heard it. But growing up, I had never heard the N word, and I only watched Disney and The Big Bang Theory, and they would not use that word there. And there were themes that were on Disney that I go back and watch now, and I'm like, oh, that's what that means, because I didn't know what I meant when I was a younger person. But the first time I moved here, and I had a group project with someone, and the person was like, oh, can I see the N word? I was like, okay, you can say it. I'm like, a girl, like in my head, I I can't go back to that headspace, because when the person said it, I was blank because I did not have thoughts in my head then. Now I would like think and say, oh, why is this loser talking, like asking me like, can you use the N word, because I know the context, but then I did not know what the person meant, and I did not want the person to know. I did not know what they were talking about, so I just like nodded. I think I nodded, and yeah. But the old me is still me, and maybe the real me, and I think he was happy. So yeah, my take on race is so controversial. I don't believe there's multiple races. I believe there's only one race, and the only race that exists. And I'm part of that race, and that's the human race. Dumb fucks. Wait, I really don't know how to explain it. I feel like I have always had this. I would never call a white person a different race, like, or a brown person a different race. They are part of my race. We're all one race, and that's the human race. And if you listen to why is white right, or the episode before is white right, I spoke about humans being variations. I believe we have different variations of humans, and that's how I'm going to differentiate it. I'm not going to differentiate it by race because I believe there's only one race on the planet, and that's the human race, and different variations of said human race. That's my take on it. You can have a you can't have a different take. If you think differently, take it up with me. DM me on Where's My Mind, and if you DM me, I will kick you in the throat. I'm joking. I'm joking. If you DM me, we could just no, we can't discuss because I don't know a lot about race. But I, my stance on race is there's only one race, and that's the human race, and that's why I believe we should treat everybody the same way. And there's this video I think I'm gonna do a podcast on, which is going to be a podcast from in 2 weeks or next week. Yeah, next week. And the video is this guy was like screaming at these two people, and he was like, "We're smarter than you." To for context, it's a middle-aged white man, and he was screaming at these two people, "We're better than you. We're smarter than you." And like when I saw the video, my head automatically thought of, does intelligence equal better? Like, if someone is more intelligent than you, does that equal that person being better than you? That's a question, because in some aspects, intelligence could seem like could equal better, but in other like scenarios, strength could be the most important. In other scenarios, being as small as possible could be what's the most important. And I don't think one person can have all three. Like, obviously we have different qualities, but I don't think, yeah, you could be small and smart, but not small, smart, and strong. Does that make sense? Or you could be strong and smart, but you cannot be strong and small. Does that make sense? So, just food for thought. I believe there's only one race, and that's the human race. Shoot me if you think differently. My address is Jupiter because I'm from Jupiter, so you can't really find me or hit me. Um, this episode is very. This is how I talk in real life. Um, for the Palestine Israel situation, I truly feel I don't know a lot about it, but I understand where both sides are coming from. I feel we need to stop with the name calling and just start talking like debate and stop with the bombing of kids. Please, please, please leave those kids alone. Please, 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 please leave them alone. Stop shooting kids. If no, not only kids, stop shooting people. Period. Because I hate this take when I maybe it's because I'm a man, but like I hate the take when people say stop shooting women and kids. I'm like, okay, well, what about the men? And I'm not saying what about the men in like a misogynistic way. I'm saying I'm like they're people too. And they're people, they're men, they're who did not like sign up for the war. Like they just wanted the peaceful life, and this is happening. So I think my like I know this is an unpopular take, but my take with the Israel Palestine stuff is, what about the people there? I don't care if they're 2 or 75. They are people, in my opinion. And if they don't want to do this, let's stop doing it. I know my thoughts on this is not going to change anything, but that's why I'm saying it. So I can say that I stand here and not float around. But yeah. And I'm not laughing at what's going on. I'm just saying it's a serious situation that I don't have enough education on. And I think I've been watching a lot of like debates on what's going on, and I think the people who debate are weird. sorry, shoot me. I feel some people speak about Israel Palestine to gain virality or gain followers. And there's some people I feel like they don't truly mean what they're saying. Um my take on immigration. Huh. Humans, do you need me to explain everything to you? And I'm not even that smart. We all live in a rock. We can all come and go as freely as possible. I truly believe that. I believe that we should stop herding like wealth in like a specific part of the world. I feel, oh, if you know that part of the house is, because we all live in this rock. If you know that part of the house is dirty, go clean it up. Like that's what I truly believe. I believe if humans can repair the world as one, we will live a lovely life as humans, and there'll be no war. What else was I gonna say? Um, I think that's all I was gonna talk about. The topic of today was meant to be the book from last week, which is about quantum, like different like universes happening at once. I can't remember the word. I listened to an audiobook, but I was gonna get the physical book so I could see the word, so I could remember the word, but I can't remember the word. Quantum dynamics. That's not a word, but this girl basically hated her life. She killed herself, and then she was in between life and death. And in between life and death is the Midnight Library, and the Midnight Library is a library filled with a lot of books, and every book was a different life she could have led if she made different decisions or picked different hobbies or like did something different with her life. Then the first book she had to read was her book of regrets, and the book of regrets tells you every single thing you have regretted, from, oh, I regret not eating pizza last night, or oh, I regret having SES with the doorman, or like she had a lot of regrets, or oh, I regret killing that person, or I regret killing that aunt. And from the book of regrets, she chose her first book. And the first, I can't remember the first thing she picked, but in this library, there's a librarian, and the librarian is a woman, a librarian in her childhood or in her school when she was younger. And this librarian and her was speaking about her future, and she wanted to become a glaciologist. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that word right. I just still don't know what they do. And she wanted to become a glaciologist. No, her librarian told her to become a glaciologist. And when she was younger, she was really good at swimming, and her dad wanted her to go to the Olympics. And she was really good at playing piano, and her brother were in a band. And now, before she died, she was working at instrument. What is it called? She was working at string theory, and it's like a guitar store. And they fired her that day. Her cat died that day, and the man who relied on her for his meds went to a home, so he doesn't need her anymore. And she killed herself, went to the Midnight Library, met up with this librarian, which was her childhood librarian. And she hopped lives, went to a life where I can't remember the first life she went to, but oh yeah, the first life she went to was the life where her cat was still alive because she was really sad that her cat died, but still her cat died because she thought she was a bad cat owner who left her cat to like go wander around the streets, and then a car hit her cat. But no, the cat like had like an immune deficiency, and the cat just left the house to go die, and she did not feel bad about that anymore. And then she had a life where she was like a professional swimmer, and she had the best buddy, and her brother was an alcoholic. When she was I'm so bad at telling stories, but it's just a good book. And the format of the podcast episode is me telling you the stories and me telling you how my like what I take from the stories. What I took from the story was you can live all the lives you possibly want to live, and the life you are living at this current state, even if you think it's the worst life, you're like, even if you think it's the best or the worst, there are things you have readily available to you right now that in a different life or in a life you dream up could be unavailable. Like in her life, when she was a swimmer, she thought her mom would be alive, but her dad had like a side chick, and they were all casual, but the way her dad spoke to her was not the same way. Like they had a very bad relationship, I think, when she was like a swimmer, and when she was a performer for millions of people, she could not enjoy it with her brother because when her brother was like performing, he took drugs and he died. And her best friend who moved to Australia wanted her to move to Australia with her, but her best friend wanted both of them to go to Australia together and like stay there. But in the life where she went to Australia with her friend died like 3 months later in Australia. Like she got hit by a train, like a bus. No, a car or a bus. So it just shows it just goes to show we really never know. And the life where, because in her regular life she was 40 and she was not married, and in the life where she went to uh her husband, or where she had a husband, she was unhappy because her husband was cheating on her, and he didn't like, the relationship was not what she thought it was going to be. And in the life where she had a husband that loved her and a kid, she was unhappy. She was not unhappy, but she was uncomfortable in that life because it's not what she built. It's another version of hers life. It's not her true life. And at the end of the book, the library was burning down because the way the midnight library works is if time start moving again, that means you are dying. And if the library burns down, that means you die and you never see anything again. But if you're still alive, like in between life and death, then you can like go through any life. So the library was burning down. Her librarian was burning, but her librarian is like a figment of her imagination or her subconscious in flesh in her mind. I hope I'm making sense. And at the end of the book, she got a totally new book, which was blank, and she had to like fill in the book or write her own story. So she had a second chance at life. And after I read that book, we all have a second chance at life every single time we wake up in the morning. And I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker here, but like I feel if you've regretted something in the past, or if that your life is not the way you dreamed of it, or if all of your goals are not like falling into your laps, pivot, like switch lanes, or go harder, or plan again. And there are things that we think are more important that in the grand scheme of things could not be the most important thing to us. And if your life sorry, if my life was a book so far, it'll be a four, like sorry, I was gonna say 4 star. It'll be a 1 star book because I'm so boring. But if you want your life to be more interesting, like me, I really enjoy like a very boring life with like interesting bursts in the middle. I want to like incorporate that into my life now. So yeah, I think this is how the format is gonna be. So I tell you the story, but like switch and go into like my life, and like go back to the story. And like it's not like a storytelling podcast, but it's like books, and I get ideas from the books. Like for this first book, I liked the whole book, but for next week's episode, I think it's a video, and I'm going to discuss more about the video. And it might be 20 minutes long, 15 minutes long, um, because I think that's how it's going to look. It's just going to be a very cool format. And for some weeks, it could just be like a phrase from a book, or a page of a book, or a line, or like 15 minutes from a podcast. Yeah, that's how the format is gonna be. And yeah, I I for the immigration stuff, I saw a video. I can't remember where I saw this video. I hope it pops up on my TikTok again. If you're listening to TikTok, please show me this video. And there was this ant, and they drew a circle, and the ant couldn't move past that circle. And I think that's what humans do now, and we should stop doing that. Okay, we're really smart, intelligent animals. We should be, huh? Humans. Sometimes I wish I was in Jupiter, back in my home country. Sorry, my home planet, Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be a very prevalent theme on the Where's My Main podcast. I'll speak to you next week on a very interesting but depressing topic, which I'm sad to record. And it's gonna be a video episode. For audio only, I wish this podcast was audio only again, but and then if I was gonna I don't know. I don't know. I'm so sad. No, I'm not sad, but like I really hate doing video episodes. But I don't know. I don't think it's only because people can see how many people listen to the podcast, which is like zero. It's not zero. But I think it's also because I used to do video episodes, but I knew the full videos not on the internet, and people can't see my mannerisms, and like not everyone can judge it. And I know nobody judges it right now, but whatever. I'll speak to you next week on a very interesting episode. I want this to be 45 minutes, so I'm gonna end this here. Bye.